Hey, my name's Ian Koniak, and I am the CEO and founder of Untap Your Sales Potential. And today I'm going to give you a masterclass on how to make between 500,000 to $1 million selling technology, mostly SaaS or enterprise software or anything to that degree. So before I begin, I just want to kind of give you a concept of what this could mean to your life if you're able to do it. You see, most sales reps that are in tech and those that are actually doing pretty well are making around 200,000 per year. Pretty good, right? Sounds great. And that's very doable. That's around the OTE for a lot of tech salespeople. Maybe it's 250, maybe 150, somewhere in that range between 150 and 3. Let's call it 2. Well, making 200,000 a year, you would have to work for 15 years to make $3 million. And you probably won't keep a lot of it because of taxes. Well, that's a lot of grinding. That's a lot of hustling. That's a lot of time. But if you're able to compress that time period and make 750,000 a year, right in that middle zone between 500 and a million, that same $3 million you can get to in 4 years. And that's actually what I did. And in fact, I did that at Salesforce, which enabled me to retire from tech and coach full-time, which is my complete dream. So today I'm going to share exactly what I learned to be able to make that kind of money. And I'll give you exactly what you need to do to replicate that. Now, before I begin, I'm going to share a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover 4 steps that you need to take to make between 500,000 and $1 million in tech sales. And when you do that, you really can transform your income and in turn, transform your life and be able to live the life of your dreams when you're making that kind of money in many ways. And the big thing is I'm going to talk about how to do this without sacrificing your health, your well-being, your family, because that's really important. If you make all that money and you have no life and your relationships are damaged, then it really is not worth it. So that's what I'm going to share today. Now, this training is really for 3 profiles of people. Again, you have to be in tech sales. If you're selling real estate or some kind of commodity, probably not for you. You want to be in tech sales. You want to be an account executive, account manager, or in the very least, selling something strategic. Even if you're selling implementation services or consulting services, that's fine, but more of a strategic type of technology versus a commodity sale. Okay. Now, within tech sales, typically there are 3 profiles that I coach and that I think would benefit from this training. The first is the seller who is not performing at their current job. They're missing their numbers. Maybe they're missing by a little bit, maybe they're missing a lot, but they're actually not hitting their targets. It could be because they're newer to sales or SaaS sales. Maybe they did well transactional and now they're selling something in tech and they haven't been able to make that transition. It could be that they're just finding it harder to sell. Maybe they were successful before, but what they did before is actually not working. And these are sellers that fundamentally are just really frustrated. They're not sure what to do, and they're questioning even potentially if they have what it takes to be successful in sales. The second seller is those that are actually hitting their numbers, but they're not performing at the level that the highest performers in their company are reaching. So these are sellers that are hustling, they're grinding, they're working really hard to get to their quota, but they're finding that they're doing it, in a way that is not sustainable. It's hard to continue at that pace year after year. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress. And also these sellers are looking at people at their company, maybe making between 500,000 and $1 million, selling much bigger deals. And they're asking, what are they doing differently? And they're asking, why not me? I know I have what it takes. I just need help up leveling and getting to that next level. And they just they're not sure what to do. And they really want to get to that next level because the way they're doing it right now, they're not making the money they want. Even though they're hitting their numbers, it's really not taking to that highest earning potential. That's where I was, before I started making big money at Salesforce. Is I was in that kind of 2 to 250 range, and I was kind of middle of the pack, and it was very frustrating because I knew I was capable of more. The third profile is a person that is actually very successful, but they're doing it the wrong way, right? Maybe they're making the money they want, but they're always stressed, they're always overwhelmed, they always have to start all over, and it's really not sustainable, right? So these are sellers that maybe they are strategic and they're bringing great money, but their work-life balance is out of whack. They wake up with anxiety, thinking about what they need to do. A lot of these sellers are actually not very efficient with their time. So the day overtakes them and they feel like they got nothing done at the end of the day, and they feel anxiety, and that anxiety feeds into their home life, which is very, very frustrating for them because they can't be fully present with their family, with their kids. And it's just, they're thinking, you know what, something's got to change because my health is in jeopardy, my relationships aren't great, and I'm just not happy. I'm just not really fulfilled. So that's a third seller profile. These are the sellers that, again, they realize there's got to be more out there, and it's just not fulfilling because they don't have the life that they want, even though they are making the money. So these are kind of the three profiles of training. If you're not one of these, maybe you don't need to listen to the rest of this training because probably not for you. But if you are, listen up. Over the next hour or so, we are going to go deep in what it takes to be a top performer. So let's get into a little bit more about what's happening in the market and why it's so hard to sell. You see, here's the trends from RepView in 2023. I'm filming this at the end of 23. And on average, this year, RepView has reported that they've seen the biggest drop in seller quota attainment than ever before. In other words, 14% lower than last year. Last year, 43% of reps were hitting their numbers in the enterprise space. And this year, it's only 37%. So it's harder to sell. It's harder to sell because companies are scrutinizing budgets a lot more. The pandemic boom in tech it's long gone. And now companies are trying to be more efficient. They're trying to tighten up their operations. And a lot of these technologies are seen as nice to haves versus must haves. And so they're just really not spending the extra money. So the trends, as you see on the left side, are going down in terms of enterprise AEs that are hitting their number. Well, the good news in all this is that the median OTE has actually gone up by 7%, and the top earning potential, in other words, the highest earning W-2s have gone up by 14%. So top performers across the board and all companies surveyed are making an average of $614K a year, and the average median OTE in enterprise now is $250. So there's still a ton of money to be made. And just to prove this point, this is just a screenshot of the top 10 paying companies of 2023. You can see all of them are over 1.3 million. And if you want to look at this, you can visit the website below, repview.com/salary/enterprise account executive. You can see all the companies and what the top earners make. But I can promise you, if we work for a mid or large size company, that you have people making over 500,000. In fact, 64 companies pay their top earners over $1 million W-2 earnings. 303 pay over 700,000 and 604 over 500,000. So the opportunity to earn 500,000 to $1 million is real, and it is real in your company. So that's the important thing, is it's out there. You just have to upskill yourself. Now, why should you listen to me? Well, first of all, my background is I was the former #1 enterprise account executive in the select division at Salesforce. I've done the job. I've sold over 100 million in my career. And for the past few years, I've been coaching and teaching people how to get similar results as the founder and CEO of Untap Your Sales Potential. I've coached over 200 high-performing AEs, and many of them are in that 500 to $1 million range after going through my program. I'm also the Dean of Pavilion's Enterprise Sales School at Pavilion University, and I teach lots of people in that program how to do it. And I'd say most importantly, of all the reasons, I'm doing it the right way. You see, on the left, you'll see a picture of my family. That's my wife, Sandy, my son, Max, and my son, Luke. And for me, it's all about, just leaving work at work. And I know that sounds really hard, but there is a way to manage your time and to manage your energy where you can feel like you've done all you can in the day. And when you feel like you've made the most of the day, you've focused on the right activities, you've executed your plan, you don't have that guilt, that anxiety that you take home because you let it go because you've done all you can. And that's how I live my life. Even running a company that's, tracking for over 2 million this year and on track to be an Inc. 5000, I still don't carry that stress as a lot of founders do, or startup founders, because I've learned to balance. And that's really, really important, is I have a very strong integration between my work and my life. And, my family's why I do everything. So why should I sacrifice them to be successful? So I carry those values, and I teach others in my program how to prioritize not just their success in sales, but also their success in all areas of their life. That's what I stand for, is really, performing your best in all the areas that matter most: your relationships, your kids, your family, and your career. So it's a more holistic approach. Now, as far as credibility, like I said, I've done the job. I was earning around $720,000 per year my last 4 years in Salesforce. So I don't share this publicly. I don't like to flaunt it, but for people that are either naysayers or skeptics, these are my W-2s. The only thing I redacted was my social security number. So in 2017, it was $943K. In 2018, it was $499. So, really, really strong. 2019, these are actual pay stubs from Salesforce that I pulled up. Over $1 million, $1,021,000 in 2020, 407. And that was actually the year I started my coaching business. So I was doing that while, starting a side hustle. So, I've made the money, and I think it's important. I'm not telling you to do something that I haven't done. If you're going to get a coach, if you're going to listen to someone who has done the job. This is my space. This is what I've done. And if you average all that out, it comes out to about 717, 642 per year average income. As I was saying, if you multiply by 4 years, you can make $3 million in a period of 4 years. That's like working 15 years. You could retire young. You could go pursue a passion. You could help other people. Do whatever you want. It just gives you a lot of financial freedom when you have that kind of money. So listen up. I'm going to share exactly what I did and how I did it. So the enterprise logos that I've sold, these are just a few of the logos, some pretty big household names. I sold those while at Salesforce. And since 2001, I've been coaching AEs full-time through my Untap Your Sales Potential program. This is our most recent mastermind we did. We all get together, we learn, we grow, we have guest speakers, and a lot of my clients are having similar results, which is just the most fulfilling thing for me to see. So the question you might be asking is, you did this for yourself, you did it a few years ago, but will it work for me right now in today's market? And the answer is yes. These are 3 clients that gave me references in 2023 at the time of making this video. Rich just closed a $25 million deal. We worked on it together, and he has 2 more deals in the hopper. One's for 8 and another one for 20 million ACV. And he wants to retire so he can go do real estate development. And so we're really working hard to get him to that place where he can have that financial freedom. Lori is new to her company, and in just a very short amount of time, she closed 500,000 ACV deal. And it was just 14 weeks after starting. And Sanatha was a private coaching client who just closed a 3.5 million ARR deal this year. So it does work. It does work right now. And in fact, it's more important to deploy what I teach right now more than ever, because it's a harder selling environment. The other reason I think that I have a lot of credibility is because I wasn't always successful. I showed you my last 4 years at Salesforce, but I didn't show you 2014, 2015, and 2016. In fact, those were years where I missed quota. And my rock bottom in sales came January 31st, 2017, when I had missed my number in enterprise for 2 years. Then I went down to the commercial team because I thought I needed more at bats. And I literally was working as hard as I ever worked. And I was sitting at 95% of plan my last year, in that commercial segment. And I had 1 deal to get me over. And the last day of the fiscal, we were supposed to get the deal, but last minute, the CIO had to travel to China and he was on vacation, and we didn't know that he was involved. He was at the parent company, and the deal ended up pushing. And after trying everything I could, my quota, I missed it. So a 3rd year in a row, barely missed it. It was the hardest of all the years, because at that point, it was like I had to look myself in the mirror. The first couple of years, I pointed the finger. I said it was the enterprise. I said it was my boss. But then I changed teams. I had more at bats. I had a better boss, and I still missed my number. And that was when I hit my rock bottom. So I was like a lot of people who are listening here. I wasn't successful. It's not like I'm coming here telling you from a place. I had to make changes to go from the rep who was missing my numbers to the rep who finished number 1. So the question is, what did I do? That's what I'm going to go over in the 4 steps. So step 1 is really simple. I humbled myself and I realized, hey, I can't do it on my own. And I decided to get some help. You see, the problem the first 3 years I missed quota was I was selling the same way I'd always done. I came from Rico. I had a lot of success selling copiers, and I approached Salesforce Enterprise that way. I tried to like just grind it and hustle and do a lot of activity. And I was really stubborn and overconfident in that approach, and it didn't work. I was relying on myself, and I really, I wanted to get better. I looked at content, I watched YouTube videos or read books, but I did have a lot of trouble applying it. I consumed, but I didn't apply. And I didn't have a lot of help within Salesforce or from my management it's not that they didn't want to help, it's just they were very busy working the deals, and I didn't necessarily have all the big deals. So I was kind of left for fend to myself. I had money. I was making around $250, $240 a year, and I was investing it in stocks, but I wasn't investing it in myself. I wasn't actually putting my money towards my own development. And I finally got to a point where I was so desperate and so down on myself after missing for 3 years that I said, I'm just going to suck it up and get help. So the solution was really simple. I had to change how I sold. I had to be humble enough to accept help and actually pay for help. And that enabled me to become a strategic seller, okay? The big focus on investing myself was I was paying for application. I wasn't paying for the information. I actually was paying to help apply the information that I was learning. And that required me getting coaching and support outside of my company. And I put $20,000 in to be able to develop myself and gain the skills and the attitude that I needed to be successful. You see, the big thing is sales people are athletes. You run your own business. If you have an opportunity to make $500 to $1 million, right, it's worth it to pay 20 if that means you can double your income. Because going from 250 to 750, that's a $500K return on the 20,000 I spent. So ever since that happened, I've been investing myself over and over and over again to give myself the capacity to have more earning potential. It's a total paradigm shift versus investing in real estate or stocks or investing in a car or a house. It's actually investing in your own skills, and it totally pays dividends because you have more capacity to earn. So that's how I like to think of myself. If you look at athletes like Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Novak Djokovic or any of these top performers, they have a great coaching team around them. And I just thought I could do it on my own. And now I realize I need help. I need support. So it's something I've done ever since. So that year I invested $20K in coaching. I joined a mastermind called Abundant. I worked with a coach, it was Ben Skemper, and I had a running mate, someone that was at my company who was very successful, that we went together, we challenged each other, we helped each other. His name's Brian Moore. I still keep in touch with him. Now he's an AVP over at Salesforce, but it really took me getting help, applying it, and actually paying for people to help me, because it's one thing to get the information for free, but people don't really pay for information. They pay for application. That's the key, okay? They pay for application because knowledge is free. I'm giving you this video for free. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. But the challenge is, how are you going to do it on your own? It's very hard to apply knowledge on your own, and knowledge tends to be scattered in a million places. There's not one place to actually grab everything and have it all in one place. You have to go to this video or this trainer or this post or whatever. It's all over the place. So I've really tried to help fix that in the program that I give. And, that's what I did my first year investing myself. That year, I ended up closing an 8-figure deal, and I finished #1 at Salesforce. This is me with the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Chris Stewart. We're actually sitting in Mark Benioff's seats at a Warriors game at Dreamforce. So I reached that pinnacle of success, finished #1, and it really was from there. That was the standard that I held myself to and continued to perform. So once I started investing myself, the next 4 years, you can see what happened with my income. My income went from 241 to 717. My ACV went from 1.3 to 3.5. And I went from hitting plan 1 of 4 years in those first 4 years at Salesforce to 4 of 4 years making clubs. So it really was a full transformation. And because I had such success investing myself, I've continued to do it with my own coaching business. You see, I've invested over $200,000 in my development since 2017. That has been my secret sauce, is find people that have walked the path that I want to walk and pay them to help me and get their support and mentorship. It really has accelerated the learning curve, such that I've only been in business for just over 2 years, and my business is now tracking to do 2 million, and we're going to be an Inc. 5,000 company next year. So I've taken all the shortcuts by continuing to invest in myself. You see, if you work hard at your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard and always bettering yourself and work hard on yourself, you make a fortune because you're always getting better year after year after year. And that's why I continue to surround myself with masterminds and coaches. And will always do that because that is my secret sauce. Now, here's the thing about developing yourself. And I want you to stop watching this video unless you're ready, because this is no easy button. You're going to watch this video for an hour. You're going to get a lot of tips. And I got news for you. It's not going to be, oh, I watched Ian's video and now I'm going to make $500 to $1 million. Because here's the reality. Truth number one is that if you want to change your results, you must change yourself. Okay, it's not about knowing what to do. It's about changing yourself to become the person who's capable of actually doing it. You have to change if you want to change your results. And that's a hard pill to swallow for many people. Okay, the second truth is a lot of us just aren't ready for change. We're in our comfort zone. And change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, because change is hard. It's hard to learn and apply things. It's hard to get help. It's hard to invest in yourself. It's hard to actually implement new things you've never done before. But when you're in so much pain, okay, that you are desperate, then you're going to be willing to be in a place where you actually are willing to change. I hit my rock bottom in sales. And once I hit my rock bottom in sales, I was willing to get help because my philosophy was never again. I never want to feel this way again, the way I feel now. So I was ready, I was willing and able to make that change. And the third truth is that change doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. There's no easy button to change, okay? So don't think you're just going to snap a finger and change all of a sudden. It takes a lot of time. And that's why I've identified the top 3 areas that need to change in order to make $500,000 to $1 million. So let's go through these. And this is principles that I've learned in 7 years of personal development. So the first area that needs to change is how you think, your mindset. The second area that needs to change is your habits. That's what you do. And the third area is your selling skills. In other words, if you want to make $500,000 to $1 million, and you've only been making $100,000 to $300,000, you need to change everything. You're not just going to skyrocket because you watch a video. So I'm going to walk through steps 2 through 4, which is how to think, how to work, which is what you do, and how to sell in a way that enables you to reach that next level. Now, if you're still watching this, which I hope you all are, and you're curious and you're ready to actually get some help, and you need help changing how you think, how you work, and how you sell, right? We have a program called Untap Your Sales Potential. And that's exactly what we focus on. Now, here's the key. It's not a 1 week or a 1 month program. It's a 1 year program because, like I said, change is hard, change takes time, and it's gradual. Okay. And that's why, again, we have a 12-month program. And a lot of people who go through a program are continuing to renew because they get so much value and they know the work is still just beginning. So once you're on that personal development train, it's a train you stay on forever. So that's why this is a 12-month program. And, you know, we really have levels for anybody that are, you know, really wherever you are in your journey. It doesn't matter whether you just want the information, you want to know what to do and have it all packaged in one place. If you're someone who can learn really well on your own, if you just want to know what to do and you're very good at applying on your own, then don't do live coaching. Just buy the course and get the exact playbook I used in every detail to get from, you know, 240 to 700K plus. Okay. Because I'm going to share a lot of it today, but I'm only sharing a small fraction of what's in the whole course, where I give you my templates, my workbooks, all of my spreadsheets, my proposals, everything that I did to get there. It's all in the course. Now, if you need more hands-on support, which is me, I was not one that can consume and apply. I had trouble applying. Then you can go in the silver or gold plan, which is really focused on application. The silver level, we do it in a group. We have office hours. We have deal coaching. We have accountability pods. We have cohorts. And I meet with you every single week to help you in a group setting apply the content. And if you need even more hands-on support where you want to have me one-on-one, I have that with gold coaching, and we have live events that you can go to with your peers and learn from, you know, the top people in the world who are in the gold program in their space. That's more of a mastermind. So it's one-on-one coaching plus 2 live events. So wherever you are in your journey, right, I can help you. Now, because of the success of my program, because of the success of my clients, the program's sold out. I keep the groups very small and intimate. I only let in a certain number of people. So if you are interested in working with me and you do want that help, the only way to do it is to apply and book a coaching call. You can do that using the link below. And specifically, when you have your coaching call, you can share your concerns, any challenges you have, what your goals are. And if you're a good fit for the program, if somebody comes up and they don't renew after their year membership, you can secure one of their upcoming spots. We are always full. We always remain full because we have people lined up to take the spots. So that's how you get into the program. It's not a cohort model where we start and we stop, we start. We're always letting people in, and people are always coming off renewal. So if you are interested, book a coaching call with my head of sales, and we can share, whether or not we can help based on your unique situation. We're also going to make recommendations on what program is right for you. So I can help if you need help. I'd hit pause on this video and book a coaching call now because I'm launching this. There's a lot of people who are going to see this free training right now. And again, we only have a handful of spots that come up each month because I do keep the enrollment cap. So hit pause, book a coaching call, and then come back and watch the rest of this training on the skills and the mindset and the habits needed to make $500K to $1 million. All right. I think you're back now. So let's talk about which of these is most important. I did a poll a little while ago on LinkedIn, and I asked over 2,000 people voted. I asked, which of these, are the main reasons people underperform in sales? Is it mindset or habits or selling skills? And what's interesting is that 87% of AEs said it was either mindset or habits. And I tell you, I cannot agree more. And that's why the program includes so much on mindset and habits and not just selling skills. Because if you don't have the motivation, if you don't have the drive, if you don't have the discipline, the organization, the focus, if you don't know how to avoid distractions, again, you're really not going to show up fully every single day. And if you don't show up fully, you're definitely not going to get the results. So that's why mindset and habits are so important. So let's get into step 2, which is up-level your mindset. You see, your mindset is the foundation of success because how you think, right? Your beliefs and thoughts determine how you feel, and how you feel determines what you do, and what you do determines your results. So if you're discouraged, if you think your territory sucks, if you think nobody cares about you, you're actually going to feel pretty shitty, pretty discouraged. And when you feel shitty and discouraged, you don't show up fully. You don't prospect with enthusiasm. You don't have the energy that customers are attracted to, and you will have a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're actually not going to hit the numbers that you were fearing for because, again, your beliefs determine how you worked, which determine your actual results. So you got to start with up-leveling your mindset. Okay. Now, where do reps struggle with mindset the most? Really, there's 6 core areas that I've seen. One is just they're not giving their all. They're not 100% fully committed. A lot of times they're overwhelmed and they're anxious, and they're not really sure what to do, and that makes it really hard for them to focus, and executing what's in their calendar becomes very difficult. They're stressed about their performance, and everything just tends to feel hard. And the reason why a lot of this is happening is because they're focused on themselves. They're focused on their numbers, their stress, their day, what they need to do, versus actually showing up with a service-driven approach to customers and outward focus. So let's talk about the solution for this. Well, if they're not 100% committed, usually they need to start with why. You need to reset why you're there in the first place. If you're not clear on your motivation, right, then it's hard to show up fully and withstand the day-to-day craziness that the industry of sales brings you, and especially tech sales in 2023. So start with why, get clarity on why you need to be your best. For me, the why isn't about so much the money or the recognition. It's about, again, what is going to drive me every day? So when I finished number 1, my why was I never want to feel this way again. I never want that feeling of worthlessness. And that was what I was thinking about, never again. Now it's so I can provide a dream life for my family, and I can fulfill my mission on this planet, which is really serving others and giving them the taste of what I've been able to experience in my life, not only with my business success, but with my family and my health as well. So that drives me every day. The second solution is to get to an all-in state. When you have a strong why, when you're super clear, right, you're all in. You're not overthinking. You're busy doing and really, again, focusing on your goal. And the all-in state is it's like no matter what it takes, I'm going to do it. I'm so committed to it. When you're working from that state, that's when the magic happens. Now, if you have trouble focusing, it's because there's too many different areas that you're supposed to focus on. So the solution is define what's most important and focus only on those things. And in sales, it's really revenue generating activities, which I'm going to talk a lot more about in the habits section. As far as stressing about performance, I get it. We're human. It's a performance sport. Sales, you got to hit your numbers, but that actually hurts you. Okay. Process thinking is the solution to being stressed. And process thinking in its simplicity is focus on doing the things that are going to give you the best chances of hitting the targets you want rather than focusing on the targets themselves. Okay. And I'll get into that in a minute. If everything feels hard, it's probably because you have dopamine overload, and it's probably because you're giving yourself too much instant gratification. So the things that feel hard are doing the deep work, doing the prospecting, doing research, doing deck preparation, preparing for meetings. That's actually a brain function. I'll get into that more later on how to rewire the brain so that the hard things no longer feel hard. And the final thing is in outward focus. Instead of making about you and making it all about your numbers, you got to make it about what you can do for other people. In other words, help other people get what they want, and you will naturally get what you want. So let's dive in a couple of these principles in detail for the mindset. So process thinking is really simple. Instead of worrying about the outcomes, right, concentrate on what will produce results rather than on the results themselves. In other words, focus on the process, not the prize. Okay. My process is, what do I have to get done today, and making sure I'm executing those things. And my process also is, before I start the day, defining what are the things that are going to move the needle the most in my business. And when I've defined those and when I've executed those, that's all I can do. The rest is up to God. The rest is out of my control. So letting go of attachment and detaching from the outcomes is key, and attach to the right inputs that lead to the outcomes. Because if you're doing that, usually the outcomes take care of themselves. So that's process thinking. The second area I talked about is moving from inward to outward mindset. So inward mindset, again, is all about you. It's about, I'm here to sell. I got to hit my numbers. And typically when you're focusing that way, you're showing up and you're throwing up, you're pitching, you're talking, you're impressing, and your priority is your own numbers. And customers can smell your commission breath when you show up that way, and you're viewed as a vendor. Whereas with our mindset, you're showing up with the intention of serving. In other words, you're here to listen, to have a conversation and understand, rather than trying to sell. Your intention is show up with the intention of solving a problem or helping a customer achieve a goal, rather than with the intention of selling a product or service. Customers can see your intentions. So if you're truly there to help, your customers are going to lean in. They're going to want to work with you more. And this shift, again, I made this shift by working on myself, by becoming a person who cared more about my customer. It was easier to take on that outward mindset. So instead of making my goals my own priorities, my priority is to help you hit your goals. That's why our program is sold out, because my number one goal is to make my clients successful, and the sales take care of themselves. And it really is that simple. And when you show up that way from a heart of service and trying to actually help your customers be successful, you become successful, and you also become a trusted advisor. Okay. Ziegler says it great. He says, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough people get what they want. So focus on serving, not of being selfishly focused on yourself. Now, does mindset really work? Absolutely. Sean O'Kane, another customer in the program, said he's learned more in 3 months with me than 15 years of internal trainings. And he calls out the mindset. He said, most importantly, he helped change my mindset to focus on making my clients successful, which has had a huge impact on my performance. Okay. Ian closed the biggest deal of my career so far, 2.6 million. This is Dominique. The mindset and work ethic coaching helped me to achieve this. He also dramatically increased or decreased his alcohol intake, which I just love to hear. I love to hear when people make personal changes, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're not fully aligned in your personal life, I promise you your professional life is going to suffer. And we'll get into that in the habits section. And the third person that I want to reference with mindset is Antonio. And he said, the biggest shift was my mindset and self-talk. Many reps suffer imposter syndrome, and Ian shared tips and rituals to overcome that. Working with Ian was the best investment I can ever make in myself, my career, and my family. Now, before I get into the habit section and how to up-level your habits, I just want to let you know that fundamentally, these references are not the only ones, right? I have over 120 references on my website, and these are clients that are giving their specific experience. And just to give you an idea of what that looks like, this is untapyoursalespotential.com/testimonials. You can go there and see for yourself, but we have hundreds of people that are sharing their wins, that are sharing how the program help them via video, via text, via written testimonials. And it really is, it's self-evident. You can reach out to any of these people. I mean, I've only had a couple hundred people come through the program, and 120 have left video or text testimonials. That says a lot. The other ones are probably just busy, but there's not a single person in this program who has not told me that it's been worth it. Okay. It really is worth it because I'm teaching what works. And the only thing you got to do is actually show up. You actually have to do the work because change doesn't happen overnight. So you can go on and on. You can read through that, but there is literally over 100 testimonials here. It's not just cherry picking. You can read them. And what I would challenge you to do is actually go in and reach out to some of those people and ask what it's been like, right? I don't filter any of the stuff. They submit the references, they share the experience, and they talk to each other. Don't take it from me. Take it from other people in the program, and you'll hear for yourself what it's like. So let's get into, again, mindset is the foundation for success. What we think determines how we feel determines how we work, and what we work, how we work, and what we do determines on results. Now, if you're struggling with mindset, you're struggling with imposter syndrome, you're struggling with perfectionism, maybe you're not all in, you need clarity on your why. This is a big part of the program. If you want to talk about where you're struggling, book a strategy call with my head of sales, Tanvir. Share a little bit about, why it's hard for you to go deep work, or how you're unmotivated. Again, these are areas that we can help with. It's hard out there, but there are tools you can use to get your mind right. And that's a lot of what we focus on in the program. So if you want to learn more, just book a strategy call, share, where you're struggling, and Tanvir will give you some advice, give you some coaching on what you can do, and share, if you're a good fit for the program, how you can really transform your mindset through becoming an Untap Your Sales Potential member. Now, the third step in making 500 to $1 million in software sales is you have to transform your habits. Okay. And here's the scary thing. Reps on average are only spending 2 to 3 hours a day on selling activities. And that's kind of gnarly if you think about it, but these are selling activities that I call revenue generating activities. It's either creating pipeline or advancing and closing pipeline. And creating pipeline is things like, doing research, developing a point of view, reaching out via email, phone, LinkedIn, any prospecting activities, as well as, preparing for that first meeting, doing that first meeting, and following up on that first meeting. That's all creation of pipeline. Advancement of pipeline is everything that comes downstream in the sales cycle. So doing deeper discovery, demos, proposals, negotiations, order forms, getting pricing approvals, internal prep, deal strategy, quotes, order processing, all that stuff. So if you think about the full day, only 2 to 3 hours are spent either creating or advancing pipeline. Where is the rest of the time going? That's the question, okay? My simplest advice is, if you want to improve your results, regardless of whether you work with me or not, okay, the easiest way is to increase your time spent on revenue generating activities. And I'm going to share how to do that in the next part of this. So the challenge right now, and the reason reps have such trouble focusing on RGAs, is they feel overwhelmed. They have a ton of demands from their company, their manager, do this marketing campaign, do this event, update the CRM, and they become very overwhelmed, and they lose the day. They don't prioritize RGAs. That's the reality. And they do that because they're disorganized and they're wasting a lot of the white space time, right? They're not going to miss a customer meeting. No one ever does that. But the time in between meetings, they're actually wasting. I like to say white space is wasted space, okay? They're also struggling with a lot of work distractions and personal distractions during the day. And then what happens is these inefficient days bleed into the home life. They feel guilty that they didn't get their work done that they wanted to, and either they have to fire up the laptop and work again, or they just anxious and irritable because they didn't get what they set out to get done during the day. And that's really shitty because it affects, the people that you live with and your family and your kids. And that's a tragedy for anyone. And that's happening all over. Okay. It's not your fault. It's just people are doing their best and they're overwhelmed. The other thing is deep work feels really hard. It's just hard to sit in front and say, I got to prospect and actually do it, or I got to do this big proposal. It's overwhelming. Okay. And the solution is simple, but it's not easy. Number one is you have to say no to some of the demands from the company. When I was at Salesforce, I was inundated with other people's meetings and I just said, no, I did not go. You can't be a people pleaser. You also have to delegate. So if my customers have customer success issues or tech issues, I'm delegating to my SE, I'm delegating to my CSM, right? So I can focus on my RGAs. The other thing is you need a system of weekly planning and prioritization. So I have a system I use called the 12-week year. At the beginning of every week, I plan what I want to do this week. I prioritize it in order from 1 till 15 or however many are on there. And then at the beginning of each day, I've already laid out the things I need to get done and I block my calendar. You see, hyper successful people don't use to-do lists. They calendar block and they live and die by what's on their calendar, and their calendar has prioritization. So again, this is all stuff you can apply and use immediately. You also need to know how to identify and eliminate distractions and set boundaries as to when you stop working, or else your work will bleed into your home life. You see, Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time allotted. So if you give 60 hours to a task or a bunch of stuff to do, it'll take 60 hours. But if you take that same 60 and compress your schedule into 30 or 40 hours, you'll get the same amount of work done because you're forced to focus more and work more efficiently. So for me, I set boundaries from 8 to 6. Those are my only work hours. And then I take a break from 12 to 1 to go have lunch with my wife. And that forces me to be more efficient with my time and more focused because I only have a few hours to really get the core things done. And when you do that, you can have peace of mind when you're not working because you know you've done all you can. Now, again, this is hard to do on your own. That's why we have accountability. I have habits training. I have time management. We do 12-week years together. This is all stuff that, you can get some support with if you want to work with me. The other thing is that your brain is actually your enemy. The reason deep work and prospecting and prep work feels so hard is because of something bigger going on with your brain. And that's the second problem. Our society right now has become dopamine dependent. And it's because we have everything we want in our fingertips, right on our phones. We have everything we want and we need. And it's so easy just to hit that dopamine lever to give yourself dopamine. Let me tell you what I'm talking about, okay? Distractions and busy work give you instant gratification. These are things like checking your phone, text, emails, constantly replying to everything, replying to every Slack, okay? This is the stuff that's busy but not productive. You're getting a dopamine hit because your brain is fooled into thinking you're getting something done because there's immediate reward for checking off that to-do list, okay? But that's actually not what the key work that you should be doing as a sales rep is, which is revenue generating. Everything else is noise. So all that admin work, all that training, that CRM, that expense report, all that shit you're putting first instead of the real work you need to be doing, which is revenue generating. And then when you're not working, right, a lot of times we're making it harder because of what we're doing in our free time. A lot of people are consuming a lot of video games or sports or Netflix, news, fantasy football, social media scrolling, you name it. Those are all constantly hitting your dopamine center. And, there's more extreme things like addictions, like weed, alcohol, porn. Those are even more extreme where you're hitting those levers to feel good because you don't want to deal with reality of how hard things are. Okay. And that's, again, we're human. This is really common. I'm not telling you to bash anyone. I'm just telling you what's going on in many people's brains. So here's what that looks like. Okay. You feel good. You're energized. You're euphoric, right? These are all things that are actually, making you feel good, so you want to do more of it. And your brain is getting a hit right in that pleasure center, okay? Well, the challenge with this is when you hit the pleasure center all the time with immediate gratification, another part of your brain isn't getting used, and that's the prefrontal cortex. This part of your brain is responsible for executive functions and future planning. You see, this is where delayed gratification occurs. It's the deep work. So the reason why it feels so hard is because that part of your brain isn't really getting used. So the part that's responsible for future planning, AKA planning out your week or planning out your quarter, preparing a big deck for a meeting, decision-making, problem solving, researching, point of view creation, creating an email to an executive, all that feels really hard because you're not exercising your brain in the right areas, okay? Well, here's the problem. is your brain is trying to maintain homeostasis at all times. That means your brain is trying to maintain balance with the different sections of the brain. So what's happening is because you're not getting the pleasure, it feels disproportionately more painful in the cerebral cortex when you try to actually use those muscles because they haven't been used, okay? It feels like boredom or being restless, uneasy, anxious, difficulty focusing and being tired. It's like, I can't do this. This is so freaking hard. It's because you're not using your brain, your prefrontal cortex specifically. And when you don't use something, you lose it. It shrinks. Well, the good news is neuroplasticity lets your brain actually grow when you start to exercise. Just like muscles you build in the gym, when you start using them, the muscles build. Same thing with your brain. You can create new neural pathways in your brain by doing more deep work. And the key to doing more deep work, again, is more work focused on creation rather than consumption. Okay, use the white space for creation, not consumption. And when you do this regularly, here's what it feels like. It feels like a little pleasure, a little pain, a little pleasure, a little pain. It doesn't feel like this extreme high, extreme low roller coaster of sales, which is like, I can't take it. I need a drink, right? I get it. I've been there. I've overcome addiction and I understand all of how that feels because that's how I was living for most of my sales career. And so I started to change some of these things. Okay, so let's talk about how to change. If you want to change your brain, you have to move from instant gratification to delayed gratification. Okay, that means doing the hard things first. That means doing the boring things. Why? Because mastery requires repeatedly working on mundane things, repeatedly reading 10Ks or developing point of views or writing emails or prospecting or building decks. Those things are hard. You know how long it took me to build this deck? It took me probably 20 hours to build this presentation. But you know what? I'm used to it because that part of my brain is being exercised. So you got to exercise that part of your brain. And here's the hard thing for many people to accept is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So the fastest way to exercise the prefrontal cortex and to be able to do the hard things is actually to rewire your brain with a dopamine detox. Now, what does this mean? Okay, it means subtracting or removing that which gives you dopamine. And I like to tell you, start in your personal life, okay? Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So take away some of the short-term pleasures that you do to escape, detach, or disconnect. I'm not saying completely remove them. I'm saying identify the things that you're doing in excess that you do generally to get away from the hard things because you don't want to face reality or you don't want to do the hard work, okay? For me, this has been the journey that I've been on since I've entered recovery, and these are some of the things that I've removed from my life, okay? I don't do those things that made me feel immediately good. I'm not taking Adderall for my ADHD. I'm doing the hard work of planning. I stopped smoking pot. I stopped getting drunk. I stopped viewing porn. This wasn't all at once, but it absolutely is something that I've done over a course of years. And as I've recognized that addictive tendencies to go to get other things, I said, well, this is a problem too. Even things like the news app from my phone. I noticed myself trying to grab the news. I'm like, I don't need that. It's not helping me. I took off Facebook from my phone. I've never installed TikTok. It's just stuff that is not helping me achieve my goals. It's actually pulling me away. So I say start with subtraction, and then you actually have to be with yourself. And you're like, well, what do I do with my time? Well, that's where you can start adding things in your personal life, okay? So the things you want to subtract are things that give you artificial highs, little dopamine hits. You do them in excess. When you do them, you feel depleted afterwards. You feel crappy afterwards. You might feel ashamed of yourself. You just aren't happy because you're checked out watching TV instead of being present with your kids or your partner, right? And sometimes you even do them in isolation. I know I was keeping some secrets when I was doing some of these things I was ashamed of. So again, we're not all addicts, but I promise you, every single person watching has vices, has things they know they shouldn't be doing that they do too much instead of doing the thing they need to do. So I'd encourage you to do a dopamine detox, and that's helping you rewire your brain so you can focus more. Now, once you do that, you're going to have more space and time to add things that you actually want to do, such as quality family time. For me, my journey, once I got rid of the stuff on the left, I was able to add the things on the right. I spent more time with my family. I started speaking. I traveled some awesome places. I took up long distance running, started running marathons. I got into meditation. I became a Christian. I've been tracking my sleep and, focusing on my health. And it's like, it's this journey that just keeps on giving. You're always clear in your head. And when you're clear in your head, you're very clear on what you need to work on. So it's not like you're just getting rid of stuff just so to have no fun. You're actually adding stuff that fills your soul, right? You're adding stuff that gives you a natural high, simple going on walk with your partner. These are things that are done in moderation. They fuel you. They don't suck your energy. They give you energy. Exercise gives you energy. Quality sleep gives you energy. You feel great afterwards, and it increases your confidence, and it allows you to build deeper connections with your loved ones. So these giving up those kind of vices or those self-serving things actually gives you space and time to go create meaningful connections and work on yourself, work on your health. And that translates to work. Once you do that in your personal life, it's very easy to subtract all the BS from your work life. Things like pointless meetings and phone calls, low quality prospecting, too much time on small deals or deals that aren't going anywhere, Slack, email, trying to respond to everyone, taking overly obsessive care of your customers in areas that other people can actually help and that you could delegate to, like customer service tasks or technical tasks, any kind of fire drills, admin work. You're saying no to those things, or you're just blocking off a short period of time to do them at the end of the week. You're saying no to distractions so you can add the deep work because your brain is actually getting rewired. That lets you add work like prospecting, strategic prospecting, research, developing point of views, big deal strategy and execution, building relationships, executive relationships, multi-threading to win those big deals, doing account, territory planning. These are all things that you can add because you're not busy with busy work, which is not really doing anything for your business. Okay. So you can even coach your team and help your BDRs develop better quality emails for you. So you can scale yourself and you can compound your success, or coach your extended team. If you have other people you work with at your company that sell products that you get paid on, right? So there's a lot more deep work you can focus on if you subtract your busy work. Okay. Now, the point of changing your habits is really powerful. It's because you can feel great about yourself. When you change your habits, when you change what you do, you have peace of mind. And that's what success is. It's peace of mind that is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best you're capable of becoming. And that is forever. I have work to do. I still can be a better husband, a better father. I know I can be more spiritual. I know I can be healthier, right? And I'm always committed to working on those things. So that's the beauty of it. It's forever. Working on yourself and pursuing your full potential in all areas of your life is forever, not just at your job, but in your personal life too. And when you change your habits, you change your whole life. Here's a couple examples of people that change their habits and the impact that they've had. So Tyler said, it's challenged me to reflect more on how to become the best example of both the husband and father I can be, along with the best version of myself I can be, through a consistent daily AM habits as a start. In other words, a morning routine. So Tyler's habits applied both for work with the RGAs and outside of work with, his family. Ryan I worked with, and he stopped playing video games because he was, spending way too much time on them. And that crept into, his nights, impact his relationships. And we took the PlayStation and he got rid of it. And, it's amazing. Like in just that one habit change had a huge impact. He says, I've been working with Ian for 20 weeks and, he has helped me focus on my habits outside of work. He taught me that your habits outside of work dictate how you're going to perform at work. And he saw immediate results. He said he's experienced more growth in 20 weeks than he had his 15 years with any mentor or manager. Again, second time you're hearing that. And I hear that consistently. And the third person, and Ryan got promoted twice within our time together and then got his dream job at Salesforce, which is really cool. And then got promoted from there to go to Flowsome. So the last person is Saul. And Saul was one of those self-serving people where he could, just learn what to do and apply it on his own. So he took the bronze course and he's midway through and he said it's exactly what he needs and he's applying it. And I love what he says it's only been a week, but I've already applied a bunch of principles from habits and mindset and already feel like I'm finishing my day without the anxiety of not doing enough looming over my weekends and evenings. I love that. Thank you, Saul. That's exactly why I do what I do, is so you don't have to have that anxiety. So changing your habits changes all aspects of your life. But the challenge is habits are super hard to change on your own. They're deeply ingrained. Okay. If you've already tried to change your habits and you keep going back to smoking pot or procrastinating or being a perfectionist or not executing what's in your calendar, do yourself a favor. get help. This is what we teach. Okay. If you're struggling to break bad habits and build good ones, book a call with our sales team. We can talk about the tools we use in the program that'll help you break those habits and transform your life. The final step is you need to develop and master your strategic selling skills. That's step 4 in how to make $500 to $1 million. And in order to do that, you have to evolve into a strategic seller. The difference between a transactional and a strategic seller is big. Transactional sellers are those sellers that show up and they just work hard, they grind. Typically, they're selling smaller deals, they're single-threaded, they're doing a high volume, and they're working with this speed and urgency, but really they're spread thin. They're a mile wide and an inch deep. And these are the sellers that are viewed as vendors. Now, people that are selling between $500 and $1 million, or making that much, I should say, are different. They're not hard workers. They're challengers. They learn the customer's business. They understand what they're doing today, and they show them a better way of working and challenge the status quo and bring up and teach the customer something new and give them a compelling reason to take action. They sell to executives. They don't do bottom-up selling at the department level. They do top-down selling at the executive level. They're multi-threaded with multiple stakeholders, not single-threaded, and they hyper target their prospecting. They're not prospecting, one to many. They're prospecting one to one in that personalized, hyper-personalized, hyper-relevant prospecting. I'm going to teach you to do that in a few minutes. They're patient. They're focused. They do more deep work rather than the daily grind and the high activity. It's more deep focused work in their quarterbacks, and they really do rely on their team to sell as a team rather than going about it as a lone wolf. And that means they're an inch wide and a mile deep, meaning they have fewer accounts, but they're larger opportunities. They're spending more time on bigger opportunities versus less time on smaller opportunities. So less deals, but bigger deals, and their win rates are a lot higher, okay? Now, let's get into some of these skills. The first skill is selling to executives, okay? The golden rule of strategic selling is that you have to sell directly to executives that are change agents and have the power to say yes, okay? You need to be working with people who can say yes. That will compress your deal cycle. And the reason this is so important is if you're not with decision makers, if you're selling to people and they're taking it up the chain, they're not going to sell the same way you do. They're not going to have the same impact. So you've got to be presenting and working with decision makers. And if you don't have them in your deal, in SMB, you're 80% less likely to win the deal. In enterprise, you're 233% less likely. It's virtually impossible if you're not working with the people that can actually say yes to your deal, okay? I just closed a deal yesterday with a chief commercial officer. He signed the same day. We had a quick conversation, deal's done. It moves a lot faster. And that was one of the biggest lessons I took from my first 4 years to my second 4 years is I got to get to power and get to power as early as possible. Now, the challenge is getting to power is hard. Number one is a lot of people have imposter syndrome. They think I got to be perfect before I can meet with executive. I got to know everything. I got to understand their business. And so they never try because they don't think they know enough. And overcoming imposter syndrome is about seeing yourself as equal and looking at people as people, not as some executive that you're putting on a pedestal. So you have to overcome imposter syndrome and see people as people. And you just got to show up as equals, right? Because that's how you're viewed as equals. When you're looking up to someone, they're going to look down at you. But when you're just treating people like peers, they we'll see you that way. The reason I think I get a lot of business and people like working with me is because I'm approachable, I'm normal, I'm relatable. And my experience with executives is they're the exact same way. The higher I go, the more relatable, the more approachable, the more direct executives are. And you just have to get over yourself for a minute. It's not about you, it's about them and actually showing up with the intention of helping. Okay. The second challenge after imposter syndrome is executives are busy. And if you want to actually book a meeting with an exec, you have to have really high quality messaging because they get inundated with people wanting their time. And that takes research and developing a strong point of view. And that skill is not necessarily taught in a lot of companies. The key is that you have linkage. Linkage is connecting their goals, their challenges, and their vision to your company's value proposition and how you can help them. That takes time. You've got to understand who they are at the account level and who they are at the individual level and write a compelling email that actually shows that you've thought about where and how you can help them. Now, here's the thing. You use linkage to get in the door, okay? But once you get the meeting, right, the reality is that what you thought you could help them with is just a hypothesis. You don't know for sure until you do discovery, but it does help you get in the door. It does help you book more meetings when you have strong linkage, when you have a strong point of view, and when you continue to follow up. So this is all stuff that I teach in detail in my program. Now, once you get that meeting, right, you need to ditch the pitch. You actually don't want to pitch them. You want to share your point of view in a conversational manner to get them to open up, but you need to be really good at having a conversation rather than pitching. And when you have a conversation, it actually helps your likelihood of getting a follow-up meeting, okay, which is fascinating. But success rates for follow-up meetings are 17% lower when you have slides on a first meeting versus without slides. So don't use slides. Get really good at having a conversation. And in order to be a great conversationist, you need to practice active listening. You see, most people don't listen with the intent of replying, with the intent of understanding. They listen with the intent of replying. In other words, as the exec's talking, they're thinking about what to say next. That is not active listening. Active listening is hearing and being curious and asking more questions and really being present with them. And again, these skills are not taught in sales onboarding or sales training or companies. This is the stuff I teach in my program, how to be a great listener, how to have great conversations through role plays, through interacting, because that's what it takes. You have to be present with them. You have to listen. And again, the more you're glued to social media, the more you're glued to DMs, that's not how people talk in the executive world. So you have to know how to talk to them. And then the final part is you have to have the quality conversation. And quality conversations are focused on the customer, where you can uncover and unlock pain to drive change, because change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than change. If you want your product or service to be a must-have versus a nice-to-have, you have to actually uncover the problems the client has, the pain they're causing, and the outcomes they want. And it's very hard for execs to open up to people they don't know, especially sales people. So again, extracting pain, extracting change on the first call is not something that most people are good at. So I've developed a program specifically around these strategic selling skills. I shared a few of these things, but I can't share all of them on 1 hour training, because there's literally, there is a year's worth of content that you need to learn to be able to do this really well. And in fact, I'm just touching on how to prospect and how to have a conversation, but there's so much more strategic selling skills than that. You need to know how to manage your territory, how to prioritize, how to develop a point of view, how to do account planning, how to do business planning, fundamentals, mastering your message so it relates to people and that they want to talk to you, how to do video prospecting, email, copywriting. There's so many skills that go into these areas. That's why I've developed a full catalog in my program of all the strategic selling skills, from the very beginning, planning, all the way through closing the complex scale, including how to tell stories, how to win with deep discovery at every level, how to multi-thread, closing the complex sale. I even share examples of deals that I've won in templates and proposals that I've given for my largest deals that led to 7- and 8-figure deals in the program. So if you're really curious about developing your strategic selling skills, just know that it works really well. Daniel Schaefer's a gold client, and we worked together on email copy to develop email sequences. And he booked 3 meetings with CIOs based on what we did together just in a month in his new company. Jared had a deal that was 30% bigger than the next largest deal and qualified for President's Club. And David, man, kudos to David. He joined the program at the beginning of this year, and in just 6 months, he has made double what he's made in any other year. I mean, that's the key. He says, I'm thrilled with the results I've achieved in just 6 months. Thanks to the program's guidance and support, I've made more money in my career than ever before in just half a year. It's not luck. It's a direct result of knowledge and skills gained from the program. David and I worked on messaging. We worked on deal strategy. We worked on, how to actually execute in his accounts. And he is just one of countless customers. Again, 120 references plus to date at the time of this video that you can look at who've had similar results. So at this point, you've been with me for a while, and I'm sure you noticed a theme here, right? There's 2 roads to success. The first road is you can continue to walk the road solo, which is watch content, consume podcasts, consume books, and try to apply it on your own. And you very well could be successful in doing this, but my promise to you is it's going to take you longer. Okay, it's going to take you longer doing it on your own than if you have a coach, and if you have a mentor, and if you have peers that are helping you alongside. And you may not reach that level of success on your own. I know I didn't when I was trying on my own. The second path is to do it together, to join my Untap Your Sales Potential and find the program that's right for you. It could be one-on-one. It could be, peer accountability with the group coaching program and the accountability pods. It could be going to my live events, or it could be just going through the content and having everything you need organized in one place if you're really good at applying on your own. But the key is to get the roadmap to success. This is a proven path. I teach you everything I know, and I promise you it's a lot shorter when you can actually take my playbook and apply it. And that's why, again, people are continuing to renew. So the real question is, are you ready to take the first step and get help? If so, you can join one of these 3 programs. Bronze is on demand. It's a portal. It's over 27 hours of videos, workbooks, trainings. These are for people that are self-driven, self-motivated, and just want the information. Bronze level coaching is great if you can apply it on your own. Now, if you do need help and you want support from your peers and from me, silver level coaching, we meet every single week. We go through the content together. You can ask me questions. We apply it together. You also can apply it with your accountability pods. And we have bi-weekly office hours really focused on helping you get support, where people can come in, ask me questions. I'll work with you on your deals. I'll coach you on whatever you need help with. I'm there. Those groups are really small and intimate because we cap the enrollment side. We also have monthly guest speakers come in, people like Scott Leese and Marcus Chan, and some of the brilliant minds in sales, Jamal Raymer, Blandon Flaharty, and you have intimate time with them to ask your questions of some amazing sales thought leaders. There's accountability pods, and of course, everything you get in bronze is included with silver. And if you really want to up-level your game and get to the highest level, work with me one-on-one. I do one-on-one coaching at the gold level. That's 12 private sessions with me, 60 minutes, where I can help you apply the content to your specific business. I'll work with you on your emails, work with you on your deals, work with you on your habits, your mindset, anywhere that you need help. I'm working with you one-on-one. That's the most impactful level of coaching that I can provide. It also includes 2 live events where we mastermind together. We go to a beautiful, pristine location. You meet with your peers. I bring in guest speakers, and it really is transformational. You even have text access to me in the program. So it's pretty awesome. And like I said, we have payment plans available. If you want to get bronze, you just have to go online, go to untapyoursalespotential.com/bronze. You can buy it. There's no wait list for bronze, but for the gold and silver coaching programs, they are sold out. So don't worry if you don't have the 9,000 or the 8,000, 18,000 and you want to get in the program. We do have payment plans available. You can book a call with Tanvir, kind of share what your financial situation is. If you want in, we will work with you to make this thing work with the right payment plan for you. But just note that these programs are sold out because I do cap enrollment and I only have so much capacity to coach and help people. I am the bottleneck, unfortunately, but I'd much rather keep the group small and make sure I serve everyone at the highest level than let 1 million people in and affect the quality of service. So I purposely keep it small. And if you do want to get one of those spots, the only way to get one is if a customer comes up for renewal and they don't renew, in which case we open their spot, and we will always be sold out because all those spots are in queue. So the way to get in is, if you want to work with me either in the group silver level or the one-on-one level, book a call with Tanvir. Tanvir was actually the #1 BDR at Salesforce. Then he got promoted to GRB, okay? And then he got promoted to SMB, and he's been #1 in every position he's held. He's the host of he's the host of a podcast that I was on twice. It's called Winning Streaks. He's just an awesome dude. So if nothing else, have some time to talk to Tanvir, share your situation with him. Don't do it unless you're serious about working together. But he's really understanding. He can give you guidance on what you need. He's just a good dude all around. That's why I hired him. So book a call with him, review your goals and challenges. He'll give you guidance. He'll give you advice. And if we can help you in the program, only if you're a fit, and only if you're fit, he'll recommend the coaching level that's right for you. And then he'll tell you when the next spot is coming up and how to secure it, either by deposit or by putting your money down to be able to get that next spot. So because of this demand with the program, okay, I highly recommend booking a call, getting in the queue. Even if you're not ready immediately, it's typically 2, 3, 4 months before I have capacity anyway. So hop on a call with Tanvir, take that first step, and get the help you need, okay? Because I've given you so much today, but if you need help applying it, if you want to do it together and you want support, that has been the secret for me. And I know that will be the secret for you too, because I've seen it with all my coaching clients. Now, if you're still skeptical about coaching or working together, you're probably asking one of these questions, okay? You're probably thinking, do I really need coaching? Is it guaranteed to work? Can I afford it? Is it worth it? How much time it will take? I don't know if I'm ready. Is it just for SaaS sellers or is it just for enterprise? You're asking one of these things. So let me kind of go through these really quick and address them. So do I really need coaching? I have no idea if you need coaching. My guidance is if you could do it on your own, you probably already would have. So if you fit in the profile of like having trouble, feeling overwhelmed, not being able to apply it, yeah, you need coaching. If you can apply it on your own, you don't. Get the bronze and just get the playbook. You don't need the live coaching, but if you really want help, right? Support, accountability, mastermind, community, all of that, then you'd be a good fit. Because if you could do it on your own, you already would have. So don't be stubborn and don't be cheap and go and really invest in yourself. Because again, if you have the opportunity to make $500 million to $1 million, isn't it worth 9,000 or 18,000 to be able to put yourself in the best position to achieve at that level? I think it absolutely is. And my clients would agree. That's why the testimonials are so important. Now, is it guaranteed to work? You got to work it for it to work. Okay. You got to show up every single week. You got to apply it. Okay. You got to put in the work. Change doesn't happen to people if they don't put in the work. It's that simple. So the answer is no, it's not, because you have to actually show up and apply it. But if you apply it, every single person who shows up fully and applies the content I teach has been successful, either in their professional life, making way more, or in their personal life, having less stress, having better family life, having better health. Really, it just depends on what you're looking for. So yeah, what I teach is what I do, and what I do works, and it works for the people, but you have to put in the work. You got to be committed. Can you afford it? I'd say if you're asking that question, okay, then you need it, right? Because if it's that hard to pay 3,000 or 9,000, whatever it is, and you're in sales and you're on a 200 OTE, right? There's bigger problems. You're not making the money you should in sales if you can't actually afford the program. Now, the second part is, if you don't have the money up front to pay, that's why we have payment plans. So, talk to Tanvir, tell them what your financial situation is and see if one of those payment plans will work for you. Number 4, is it worth the investment? All I can tell you is that half of the clients that do the program are renewing right now, half of them. So not only is it worth it, but they've gotten so much value, they want to do another year with me, which is it's a 12-month program, but they want to sign up for another year. So I'd say overwhelmingly, the answer is yes, it's worth it, because you transform your habits, your mindset, and your skills. You transform your whole life. It's just, once you're on that path of personal development, you're never going to want to go back. So it's absolutely worth it. But if you don't believe me, go look at the referrals, go talk to people, hear from them. Don't take it from me. I don't know if I'm ready yet. Here's what I'd say. If you're busy right now, you're probably going to be busy later, and you're always going to be busy. There is no there's no perfect time for personal development, okay? It's something that you either commit to doing and you prioritize developing yourself, or you don't. If you're too busy, that means you're not prioritizing your own development. That probably means you need the program if you're that busy, because you're overwhelmed. So you're probably a good fit if you're that busy. Now, if you just have some stuff going on in the next month or two, again, secure your spot in the queue. You can start 2, 3, 4 months. If you have some life events going on where you can't actually get started yet, that's totally cool. But if you're just busy, like, that's not going to change. When are you not busy? Okay. So you just have to make development a priority if you're in that position. Is it just for SaaS sellers? No, it isn't. I have lots of people who are implementation partners or consultants in my program. I have business owners, I have sales leaders. I have a lot of different people who want to take these skills and apply it, because I cover more than just skills. It's mindset and habits. And a lot of these skills I teach, they teach to their teams or they apply in their business. So it's not just for SaaS. It's also for implementation partners, consultants. The key is that you're selling a product or service, which is a little longer cycle. It's a little more strategic in nature, and it helps a business grow or transform. Is it just for enterprise? No, I have people in SMB, they're applying the principles and absolutely crushing it. I have people who sell smaller size deals and they're knocking it out of the park, because what I teach works for all levels of sales. I teach strategic selling skills, not enterprise selling. So it's a little bit different. Strategic is how you sell, and you could sell that way regardless of the size of the company you're selling to. Okay, so hopefully that answers your questions. Again, if you still have questions, book a call with Tanvir, talk to him, make sure it's a fit. There's zero pressure. We don't want you you in this program if you don't want to be here. We want people that want to develop themselves, that are committed, that are excited, that are hungry, and that need the support, because that's what gets the quality of our members. Like, it's all about the people who want to be there. So again, this isn't about selling you. It's about helping you find the right program for you and making sure that it's a fit for you based on your needs. So book a call. You got nothing to lose. You can just share what your goals are, what your challenges are, and where you need help. And if we're able to help you, we'll tell you how. If we're not, we'll send you elsewhere. That happens a lot because we don't want people in the program who we can't help, because client success is our #1 value at Untap Your Sales Potential. So if you're ready, if you're willing, you're able, and you really do want to perform to your highest potential in sales and in life, pick up the phone, book a call, and you'll be one of many people to join us on our next mastermind. I bought a retreat center in Lake Arrowhead. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to be holding events there. We get together there every week. I cannot wait to help you be the best version of yourself in sales and in life, because there's no greater feeling than the feeling of pursuing and walking on the path of your full potential. I'm Ian Koniak. Thank you so much for staying with me this whole time, and I wish you the very, very best. Good luck, and I will hopefully work with you soon. Thanks so much. Take care.